Good evening and welcome to the show. Well, it's difficult to argue against the idea that everything you need in life should be within 15 minutes walking distance from where you live. This conjures images of neighbours strolling to work and to the shops, kids riding their bikes to school, cleaner air from lack of cars, and a more relaxed vibe in your neighbourhood. Some officials are so enamoured of this idea, in fact, that they want to make it a mandatory goal of all our town planning. In Victoria, it's legislated state policy.
It's all about creating walkable neighbourhoods where people can live locally. Places where communities can access most of their daily needs within a 20-minute return walk from home.
Again, it's difficult to argue against this. It all sounds so idyllic. But then they go into the detail.
These places should have diverse housing options and access to safe cycling routes and local public transport, local health facilities, parks, shops and other local infrastructure. We are already working with local government, communities and industry to deliver projects and are committed to building a livable city of 20-minute neighbourhoods. To find out more, visit the Plan Melbourne website.
Diverse housing options. Well, that's a euphemism for an enforced mix of rich and poor. The rich pay extra for a limited supply of large or good quality residences, while some of their neighbours live in subsidised state housing. If you choose to live in such a neighbourhood, great. But what if you don't want to? What if one of your aspirations in life is to raise your kids among people who work hard and can afford to buy their own home? Well, according to the Victorian government, you can't do that. The government's choice of words is important here. These places should have diverse housing options. In other words, a variety of residential types will be enforced, and you won't have any option about it. This removes one of the great and most powerful incentives of life in a liberal democracy. If you're born into unfortunate circumstances, you have the option of working your way out of them. But why would you bother doing that if your state-funded accommodation is in a pleasant neighbourhood? This isn't to say that the disadvantaged shouldn't be helped. They should. But to give them no incentive to pay their own way is cultural and economic suicide. Now, the only forms of transport the Victorian government's video mentions are bikes and public transport. These 15-minute cities have little or no room for cars because, as we have been repeatedly told for decades, cars are evil, even though most of us still own them. This is, in fact, not a plan to make urban life more amenable, but a plan to phase out cars. It is the latest plaything of authoritarians who think they know better than you and I how we should live our lives. A year ago, these same authoritarians were saying this.
So, whilst it is in human nature to engage in conversation with others, to be friendly, unfortunately, this is not the time to do that. So even if you run into your next door neighbour in the shopping centre, in the Coles, whilst you're at Coles or Woolworths or Aldi or any other grocery shop, don't start up a conversation. Now is the time for minimising your interactions with others.
Well, so much for being neighbourly then. This isn't a plan to make your life more pleasant. 15-minute cities are a plan to force you into neighbourhoods where owning a car is impractical.